The knock hit the front door like a dead weight. Mark pulled the handle back, and the sound of the storm rushed into the hallway. Standing on the porch, shivering under the porch light, was David. He clutched a single, soaked duffel bag against his chest, rainwater pooled around his boots. He did not ask to come in, he simply stared, his eyes fixed on the floor. He spoke in fragments, his voice barely rising above the wind. A layoff. A failed marriage. He had nowhere else to go. Mark looked back at Elena. She stood in the dim light of the foyer, her hand resting on the doorframe. She saw the state of the man on the porch and felt the cold air biting at the floorboards. She stepped aside, a silent signal that overridden Mark's initial pause. David stepped over the threshold, dripping water onto the hardwood. He did not look at the living room or the kitchen. He kept his head down, offering a quiet, hollow thanks as he followed them toward the guest room. The door closed, sealing out the storm. But the house felt suddenly different. The space was no longer just theirs. For 3 days, David was a ghost in the house. He washed every dish, reorganized the pantry shelves, and offered quiet thanks every morning. Then, the rhythm faltered. Mark returned from work to find his favorite mug in the sink, dark, gritty coffee grounds crusted at the bottom. He walked into the living room and stopped. The mantel was bare. The framed photos of his wedding, his parents, and his childhood were gone. In their place sat generic stock landscapes of mountains and forests. Elena entered the room, her brow furrowed, but she froze. David was sitting in Mark's recliner, his feet up, his eyes fixed on a book. He was wearing the robe Mark kept on the back of the door. When Elena stepped forward to speak, David didn't rise. He looked up, a slow, thin smile spreading across his face. "Don't worry, honey," he said, his voice smooth and unbothered. "I handled all the bills for the week. You do not need to trouble yourselves anymore." He gestured to the empty mantel. The house felt colder. The air was heavy, with the weight of something being taken apart, piece by piece, while they stood watching, unable to find the words to reclaim their own space. Mark walked into the living room, his jaw tight. He did not look for the photos or the mug. He stopped in front of the recliner and pointed toward the front door. "Pack your things, David. You are leaving tonight." David did not flinch. He reached into his coat pocket and withdrew a single crisp sheet of paper. He placed it on the coffee table and smoothed it out with a steady hand. Mark looked down. It was a formal lease agreement, dated 3 weeks prior. His own signature sat at the bottom of the page. Sharp panic. "I never signed this," Mark said, his voice cracking. David leaned forward, the smile gone. "It is filed, witnessed, and notarized." David stood up, towering over the coffee table. "You have 30 days to vacate this property." The room felt as though the oxygen had been pulled from it. The life they had built was all gone, erased in minutes by a man who had not even raised his voice.